This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system.
Hello, and welcome to the Boundary Park alert system with me, Matt Dean. My voice tone is lower because, it might have been after the Barnet at the weekend. It might have been, hello, and welcome to the Boundary Park alert system with me, Matt Dean. But it's Sunday morning, and we've just lost 4-1 at home to Ebbsfleet, so the Latics roller coaster is well and truly in full swing. I'm joined this morning by Andy Halliwell. Hello, Andy.
Good morning, Matt.
And we don't need to do the big introduction with the guest and all the fancy stuff, do we? I mean, he's been on a few times now. Everybody knows who he is.
Well. I stand fine. I think this is his third appearance, so we would be presenting him with a metaphorical match ball for this appearance. But I don't think we've actually asked him his questions before. I think on his first two appearances, I don't think we were doing the questions. Give me a nod or shake your head, guest.
Is that right, guest?
Have we asked you your questions? Nod or shake your head. Don't sponsor. Can't remember.
The questions are.
We'll do it anyway. When was your first game?
May 1986, Carlisle United, 2-1 victory, Milligan and Ron Futcher.
So, yeah, you beat me. I was December 86. You were going slightly before me. Didn't realise that.
Competition, Andy.
No, well, I don't know. I think I'm slightly older.
Roy would win every time if it was.
First Latics favourite player?
Andy Ritchie.
Stick that on the chalkboard with all the others.
Yeah.
Well, he's well ahead, isn't he?
Well ahead. Well, of a certain vintage, you're hard pressed, aren't you? I mean, mine would be Roger Palmer. He was my favourite player, but still. Favourite Latics related memory?
That's a good question. You know what? I'm going to put aside all the glory years and all the good stuff and just say, seeing the crowds marching down Sheepfoot Lane with Frank and his family before the Dorking game last season will stick with me for a long time, given that it was only a couple of months after I thought we were done, we were dead. So, yeah. And beating Arsenal 3-1 was all right.
Yeah. Yeah. You see that I don't think you've been on the pod since before that event, you see. So I think it's quite well you were on, and you were on when we were in the fighting and the battle phase with Abdallah. So and then the final question is a little unknown fact about yourself.
I was on national television in Australia a week after I landed there to go backpacking for a year.
Why?
What had you done?
not for any talent or anything like that. So stayed at this really dodgy backpackers in near King's Cross. Those listening who've been to Sydney will realise that's not the best area. And we've been there 2 days, and the fire alarm went off. So we all go outside, and it turned. I think it was like an old Croatian fella who was running this backpackers hostel, and he'd set the alarm off with what he was spraying for to get rid of the bugs and all that, doing his cleaning. So the fire service had come and they were like, yeah, we get there's no fire, but can you show us what you've been spraying? And he showed them, and it had been outlawed for about 30 years. So they immediately sealed off the whole street. They had like the guys in the big chemical suits, and we all got loaded onto the back of a bus and taken to hospital. And I was like, I was 20, well, it's 2000, year 2000, so I was 22, and I was like, you take it in your stride. And one of the girls from the hostel was like, well, I'm here on holiday. I'm not going to waste an afternoon in hospital. And the fireman, I'll never forget, on the bus, he was like, darling, if you don't come to the hospital, you might die. It's sticking a little bit. This might not be great. And then word had spread, so when we got to the hospital, we got off the bus, and there were all TV news crews there filming us.
You mum and dad are all watching.
Like in the next 2 years, I might have a claim.
Anyway, you didn't die.
No.
And here
it was a good accent, that, actually.
Yeah, it was. It was good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyway, you probably recognise his voice. And if you were at Meet the Manager during the week, or whenever it was last week, you'll have been in the room with him. It's Mike Keegan. Welcome to the podcast, Mike.
Thank you very much, gents.
Welcome back to the pod. It's funny actually when you mentioned that about the procession and Dorking and stuff, and the I was just thinking back to it, the optimism and the the feel good factor, and just how that works as a nice contrast to yesterday. With the
you'd think we'd be used to it by now, wouldn't you? It's like the life of an Oldham fan. 40 years of supporting this club, and still I'm driving there yesterday thinking we're going to give these good hiding today. Absolutely no problem. Even now, it still gets you like that.
Should we start in North London, Andy? Should we just rewind before we have to relive the misery of Saturday's game against Ebbsfleet? Should we go back to those brief moments of optimism that we experienced in the week? You were there, Andy.
I was.
I mean, when we spoke last week, you just enjoyed a 1-0 away win at Woking. Latic's passing seemed much crisper. Its midfield seemed much more fluid and organised, and we looked like a team that had turned a bit of a corner. And then we all thought, well, surely we're not going to go to Barnet and do this again. What did you make of it against Barnet, Andy?
I mean, yeah, for me, for the people who sat or stood around at Barnet, I was actually bemoaning for a lot of the game the lack of possession. But they controlled the football, Barnet. They had it all, really. Most of that first half was them. Large passages of the second half, they just retained the ball. Where you have to give Mickey Mellon credit is the way that he set us up to be very compact out of possession. So we were great shape. We pressed. And then we broke at immense pace. And in fact, I might even say it was fast, dynamic counter-attack football in the week. It was almost like that's what we'd been coached to try to do from the start of the season. And so the tactic was let them have the ball, let them pass around in front of us. So long as they can't pass through us, we won't concede many, and then we'll hit them on the counter. Some incisive football, and some of the counter-attack play was brilliant. Like really great. I mean, I thought Norwood was absolutely superb in the week. He ran his nuts off. He was a menace. He was strong. He was tough, and his passing for those 2 assists were, when lower division footballers just make the wrong decision too often. They don't make. He was making the right decision every time. This is the time to pass the ball. This is the time to break it. It was great. It was brilliant. And the midfield broke. Some great passing. Mike Fondop had probably his best game for us, I think, in the week. Danny Gardner was great on the ball. So yeah, it was great. And a 4-1 away victory is a great victory, no matter how you play. But I would come back to the fact that we just didn't have a lot of possession really, and so therefore there was an element of me in the week as I was chatting to people around me that was saying, whilst this is great, we're going to have to, and we did at Woking. We were better at Woking. Woking were a poorer side, and we held the ball much better and passed the ball around. So yeah, you move on to sort of Ebbsfleet, and you, like Mike, I put down a 3-1 win on Oldham, the Blues Prediction League. I picked up literally no points this week for that. I'd made exactly the same mistake when we were at Fyle the other week, expecting us to go on and play there. And so it's absolute chalk and cheese, isn't it? And there's the thing, I guess you got to summarise is, I think the record actually, I'll get it up. I think Prozac tweeted it in the week. Since David Unsworth left, if you include yesterday, our record in the league is now played 13, won 6, drawn 5, lost 2. So there's a distinct improvement since David Unsworth's gone. And you would say these 2 away games that we just witnessed at Woking and Barnet, definitely Mickey Mellon's got something about him. But I don't think, unless you're going to tell me anything otherwise, because I wasn't there yesterday, you can't pin any of that really on Mickey Mellon, can you? That's got to be the players' motivation, attitude, professionalism, whatever it is, because this is the problem. And I've listened to Mickey Mellon's post-match interview from yesterday. This is the problem with this set of players. You can't rely on them and trust them to do it every week, because they'll let you down.
Did you watch both the games, Mike? Did you watch the Barnet game midweek?
I did. I watched that on telly, and then unfortunately was there yesterday, and agreed with everything Andy said about the Barnet game. And I agree, you can't put it on the manager. For me, there's two things that I picked up from yesterday, and one of them, which, if you look, Mickey Mellon has not made a point of talking about it on its own, but in a lot of his interviews, he's mentioned fitness. And for me, yesterday, that was just too much for him. And to be fair, Woking away Saturday, Barnet on Wednesday, massive journeys. I believe they didn't get back until 3 o'clock Thursday morning. So if you're in the mood for being, trying to find some mitigating factors, then that's not your ideal preparation. And if you look at Barnet yesterday, I think they went 2-1 up and they ended up losing in the 98th minute to a team that played on Tuesday night rather than Wednesday night. So you can't just ignore that. That's a factor. But I think he has inherited a group of players whose fitness isn't what it should be. And you can get, and to me, he's a good manager, and he's managed to get, obviously, a very good performance at Woking, a very good performance at Barnet, but he's not a miracle worker. You can't sustain that. You can't all of a sudden magic 3 performances in a week out of a team that doesn't, to me, look like it's anywhere near as fit as it should be. And I thought, as soon as we equalised yesterday, I thought, I'd take a point here. And there was so many warning signs before they went 2-1 up. It only looked like one team was going to win it for me. And we fell off a cliff. The last 5 minutes, let's have it right, we're a shambles against a team that's budget will be nowhere near what our budget is. And none of that can be laid at the blame can be blamed on Mickey Mellon. Look, I think he's a fair guy. We know that. And he's come in and he's not had the benefit of watching them every week under previous regimes like we have. And he said, right, the slate is clean for all of you. It's all about what you do from now. And he's given everyone an opportunity. I don't think there's anybody there who can kick up a stink about not being given a chance. And now, if we're looking for positives, look, if you'd have said to me before the start of the week, you've got Woking away, Barnet away, Ebbsfleet at home, I'll give you 6 points out of 9, I'd have taken that. And I don't think there's many Latics fans who wouldn't. And now, I think he's had enough time to make his mind up. He's got a body of evidence now that he can go to the players and say, look, I've seen it with my own eyes. So whilst yesterday was horrendous, in the long term, it might not be a bad thing. And I think he now knows clearly from that interview yesterday, which I thought was a great interview at the end of the game, because we know we've had it on the previous regimes. There are other managers who might have said, oh, well, the keeper's pulled off 2 incredible saves he'll never make again to deny Norwood. And, and we did get back level and we were just a bit, we just went for it a little bit too much, making excuses. No, he's cut through all that and he's not having what he saw yesterday. And I think he's in a place now where he wanted to give everybody an opportunity. He's done that. And now he can make his decisions. And it would not surprise me if we see some new arrivals over the coming weeks.
Yeah. I mean, he said without saying it, didn't he, yesterday, without saying it directly, that some of the players here can't deliver what I need them to deliver, what the club needs them to deliver on a weekly basis, and there's going to be changes. I mean, looking at the table, right? We're in 10 players. We've only lost 6 games this season, which isn't loads, but we've drawn 9. So it's the draws that kill you, because like looking a bit further up, they said Barnet have lost 6 and they're in 3rd, but they've only drawn 3 and they've won 13. So what that says to you, we're a very average team. But you're drawing is middle ground, isn't it? Drawing a game. So, and we've only won 3 games at home. 2 of those were under Steve Thompson. So we've against York and Oxford, we've drawn against the likes of Dagenham and Redbridge, Maidstone, Dorking. We've really underperformed on so many occasions this season. It's obvious. I mean, when you talk about fitness, I think it's fair. I thought Lundstrom yesterday looked exhausted. I mean, he had a poor game, like he couldn't cope with it. The midfield in general yesterday had none of that composure that we saw in some of the other games. The shape didn't look all over the place. We were drifting like a shoal of fish to one side of the pitch, so that Ebbsfleet switched to play to the other side of the pitch. In the first half in particular, when they were shooting towards Rochdale Road end, they were switching it over to their right, and all our players were over on our right, and it was they were just coming through us, and that was those warning signs that you were talking about. It was they looked like a bunch of players who were just tired and disorganized, and like. But we don't have the depth in the squad in midfield to change it up, to bring in, Shelton has got fresh legs. Obviously, the manager doesn't treat, and the crowd as well, the fans. You don't trust to bring on players to change the game and to have that difference. It was just we are where we are, and there's no hiding it now after this many games. It's pretty clear.
Mickey was on BBC Radio in the week, wasn't he? And there was a good interview. He was on there for a good hour. If anyone hasn't listened to it, I think you can get it on iPlayer. But we clipped a couple of bits that we thought were interesting. So Dave called in, didn't he? Should we play that one first?
Should we listen to him? Sounds very sexy on this.
We've also got Dave on, Mickey, another Oldham fan. Dave, your question to the gaffer.
Hi, Mickey. It's Dave from the BPAS Alert System podcast. How you doing, mate? You okay?
Hi, Dave. How you doing? Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, pal. I just wanted to, when you came into the club, everyone was asking for new signings, new players, and when you're going to get the new players in. And over the last 6 weeks, I think it's fair to say that you've really brought out the better side of the players that the fans haven't been seeing. What approach did you take in training? Because obviously I know it's difficult when you come in from another manager's tactics and system. What did you try and adopt? Did you make it simpler, or did you make it more technical? What was it you were trying to achieve first and foremost?
I think that's fair for you to say that nothing that I say now is a reflection of them that it's worked before me, because I very much came in and had my own ways of working that I would always work, so it wasn't really reacting to what had happened before. I have to be very respectful about that, and I mean that. But I would come in and I would expect my teams to be very, very fit. But that would be the same January, that would be the same next year. I expect my teams to be ultra fit, because they all come here with ability. Immediately I would do, from when I went to the football club, I would show them the way that I was going to work. I wasn't reacting to anything that was gone before. I like high tempo training. I like my players to be able to run. I like my players to be able to understand why they're running and the value of running. And we do a lot of technical, tactical stuff as well. Everyone's done at a tempo where I want the players to be super fit, because I think, in fact, I know if you were asking for the qualities of a really good team and a really good player, one of them would be that they were ultra fit. So I expect my players to be fit, look after themselves, and then I work on mentality as well. It's important that they get mentality right and they're prepared to do the things that's necessary consistently for Oldham. And all the ingredients together are what we're building on now, and we'll continue to do that for as long as that I'm here. They'll be all of the things that we work on.
Dave in Oldham, thank you very much for coming on. Really great podcast, by the way, the Boundary Park Alert System podcast. When I was covering a lot of Oldham games last season, I used to listen to it before every single game. So yeah, great podcast.
Mike, we on this podcast, right, we gave David Unsworth the benefit of the doubt for as long as possible. Like, we wanted it to work because it's all about the bigger picture. The manager had come in, he got a 3-year deal. We were leaving him to it. Come on, Dave, do your best, and we'll get behind you. But what on earth were they playing at the previous management team if managers are coming in now and saying these players aren't fit enough? Like, what's all that about? Have you any insight into that whatsoever?
It's not a question that I can answer.
Hard to fathom, innit?
Look, I can't criticise the owners, the board, because they've done everything with the club's best interests at heart. So they've brought in a manager who they genuinely thought would work. They armed him with resources that pretty much every Latics manager since Ian Dowie would have dreamed of. And they've given him every opportunity. And I think because they are good people, they wanted to give him every opportunity to succeed. And it's not, it didn't happen. And in the end, they've made the decision and we are where we are. But I think I wouldn't want to criticise because everything was done with good intentions. And sometimes it is football. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. You can't be right all the time. Or you can't change the past. So what I would say is, the previous manager has gone, which would have been a very, very hard decision for them to make, because they are people, and they will have got on with him well. And I would have thought it will have felt like getting rid of part of the family. So they've made that decision. They've gone for what I think was the best candidate out there to come in and replace him. So it's difficult not to dwell on the past when we're looking at yesterday, and it seems like the fitness was clearly an issue. Another thing I'd say from yesterday as well is Mickey spoke about commitment there, and this might just be me, but it felt from where I was sat like we lost a hell of a lot of 50-50s yesterday. And there was one in the second half, and it can't be my eyes because it happened almost right in front of me. One of our players didn't even go for a 50-50, and he got a lot of grief from the people sat around me for it. And it's like, I guess, players have been injured, and we don't know what's going on with there, but that cannot be right. And when Mickey Mellon talks, he's had teams that have won promotions multiple times. He knows what's needed, and he talks about commitment, and he talks about fitness. And for me, those were the two major things that were lacking yesterday.
Yeah, second balls were a big issue yesterday, weren't they? They were. It was. They just weren't winning them where they needed to in key areas of the pitch, and that's what enabled Ebbsfleet to break and just cut through as at will. And what is fascinating is that Ebbsfleet, and this is not going to come as a shock to anyone who's a Latics fan, but they've not won away in 14 games, I think. They've not won for 8 games or something. They were out, on an absolutely abysmal run, which presumably, with they turn up at football grounds, including their own, around the country, looking like a team who's forgotten how to play football. And then all of a sudden, and I do not, what on earth this is all about, because it doesn't matter what year it is, it doesn't matter what manager it is, it doesn't matter who's the personnel on the pitch is, they come to Boundary Park, remember how to play football, and remember that, we are capable of winning, and put in a performance that, is good enough to inflict a 4-1 defeat on us, because we didn't turn up, and it's incredibly frustrating that time after time after time, teams that are on runs like this come to Boundary Park and turn us over, and it's got nothing to do with Mickey Mellon. It's probably got nothing to do with the players. It's just it feels like a hoodoo. It feels like some kind of a because it can't be explained logically, can it? I mean, because it happens every season. It's so frustrating. But we are where we are. I mean, we've explained the reasons why. Maybe with the fitness and blah blah blah. But what do we need to do? Do we need to employ some kind of witch doctor, or do we need to go down that road, or what? What's the crack? Because we're running out of ideas here, aren't we?
The interesting thing is when people were sort of making comments about the team not being fit under Unsworth, I think somebody asked Mick Rathbone on social media, and Mick Rathbone replied saying he thought they were fit. Yeah. So I kind of took his word for it over anyone else's. But the fact that Mickey Mellon talked about it there, that obviously the interview's done in the week prior to Ebbsfleet, and then he's talked about the players not having the right mentality. There is an issue, it's a definite issue, and he's going to have to move some of these players on, isn't he? And we're going to have to be patient with that, because this is not going to happen quickly. And if we're talking about moving players on, do you want to play that the sort of Joe Nuttall question as well? Because that might be.
I will, yeah. But just 1 second before we do that, though. But because just in terms of what you're saying there, I'm certainly not. Mick Rathbone's a great guy. He's got his his credentials are all there, and his reputation is there for everyone to see. But in terms of the people at the club, the staff at the club who are responsible for getting players up to a standard, did they? I mean, I'm not just talking about the manager, but maybe there's wholesale changes needed in the club behind the scenes as well in terms of that. Because if the manager comes and says this is just not good enough, and certain people within the club are saying no, it was good enough. There's accountability, isn't there? And it's now on Mickey Mellon to go to the board and go to the club and say things need to change, and we have to trust Mickey Mellon to get on with that, don't we? I'm not calling anybody out. It's just these are the kind of things you have to talk about. But let's have a listen to what he has to say about Big Joe Nuttall, who is certainly not a fan's favourite. Let's be kind and put it that way.
Mickey, Stu asks, where is Joe Nuttall? Is he in your plans, or are you looking to loan him out?
I think Joe, I had a conversation with Joe, and like I say, I've got a lot of strikers here. got a lot of strikers at the football club. It's a wee bit unbalanced. I think I maybe have 6, potentially 7 strikers, and I'm only playing with 2, and pretty much most of them could play first team football. So I think that it feels that maybe they're on the outside of that 6 or 7. I think it's only right that they get honesty from myself, and I say, look, I think it might be better that you maybe look to try and gain first team football somewhere else. And I've had that conversation with Joe, and unless something happens, and we've still got a paid member of the squad of Oldham, but at the minute as things stand, I think it would be better for Joe to try and find first team football somewhere else at the minute to try and keep his career moving forward, because the opportunities are not looking like they're happening at the minute at Oldham, especially. And Mike Fondop's running up the wing doing the mad runs that he's doing. The guys are holding the jersey, and they look like if they keep performing like that, it will take a lot to get them out. So that's just the way football goes, but you do it honestly and you do it fairly, and you always try to allow everybody to know how you feel that the situation is.
I mean, I don't feel that necessarily that he's made that decision based on Fondop and Norwood being like a dream partnership. You know, that's like 1 or 2 good games from Fondop. I think there's a little bit more to it than that when it comes to Joe Nuttall. And because also when you look at who's ahead, like yesterday we had Willoughby came off the bench. He 0 impact in the game again, pretty much. Hallam Hope came off the bench. He possibly is included in that group of strikers, but he's not really a striker, is he? But he played him up front. And then who else have we got? Reed's injured. It's not like any of the other players that he's mentioned. He's 6 or 7. I presume he's talking about Jake Forshaw and people like that, because he's only, without Reed in the squad, without Nuttall in the squad, you've got Willoughby, Fondop, and Norwood, and that's it. And Joe Nuttall still can't make the squad. So I don't know. What do you think, Andy?
I find it puzzling, but I mean, this is part of the issue with the attitude of some of the players. I guess I think I've always said I think there's a player in Joe Nuttall who looks like a better footballer than Mike Fondop, but his attitude when he plays is languid, and he comes across quite lazy in the way that he plays and doesn't lack a commitment. And so therefore, I guess he's probably assessed that and decided that he should move on. But that interview again after the Barnet game, when Fondop probably played his best game, what was Fondop like yesterday? I mean, they were all probably anonymous, right? So, I mean, how quickly does those views and opinions change if what you're getting out of the players that you're sticking in the first 11 is such inconsistency? What's going on with Willoughby? How can Willoughby be a 20-goal a season striker and someone we've chased, and then no one fancies him? No one's. But is he not good enough? Has it been a mistake to assign him? I don't get why. I don't
know. I think he doesn't get much football, does he? It's like we're looking for partner. Football works really well when you get good partnerships around the pitch, doesn't it? You in those little areas, your fullbacks and your centre halves, and your fullbacks and your wide midfielders, your 2 centre midfielders, your strikers. We've not established those great partnerships anywhere around the pitch. I don't think we have, not consistently, and that's a huge problem. So I don't think it's fair to write Willoughby off. I'm really annoyed because yesterday he came on. And I came up with a great pod title, Holy Willoughby. When he comes off the bench and scores 2 goals and we win the game. So I'm dying to use that one. So you let me down on that front yesterday. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's frustrating because this is the one thing football fans don't have in abundance is patience. And the one thing that is needed in abundance in this situation is patience in it. And because we're having to start again now, with a new manager and all this. And this is why I really wanted it to work under Unsworth, because we didn't want to have to start all this again, did we? But then Thompson came in, and my brother yesterday was mourning that, like, and my brother's called Simon, but I've got him in my phone as Si, S-I-G-H, because he's always mourning. He was saying, well, Thompson was getting more out of them. We had this conversation on the pod, obviously. And so then he was saying, well, Mellon should be getting more out of them. And then I was saying, well, really, I think it's down to the players. And what you have to remember is that Steve Thompson is responsible for signing some of these players along with David Unsworth. So, but 3 of our 6 wins this season came under under Thompson. So I don't know. You've, like you said, Mike, you've just got the board are making the decisions. They're looking at everything, and Mickey Mellon does seem like the kind of guy who is capable of getting us out of this division, but he's going to need the time to do it. Yeah,
and what I'd say about Thompson, I think you come in and you see it often. You come in as a new manager after a previous one's left under not great circumstances, and there is nearly always a lift, which obviously we saw. I thought the fixture calendar was very kind, and I think the shine wore off. And the two last games I think we drew at home were two of the worst performances that I've seen from us, including the David Unsworth regime. So I just do not buy into this nonsense that we would have been better off sticking with Steve Thompson.
How did yesterday stack up?
Well, the thing is, it was the same process, but it was the same thing, wasn't it? It was the same issue. What we had is teams that were very resolute and compact and behind the ball, and we couldn't break down. And one of the things my brother was saying yesterday was about Barnet. I mean, Barnet played into our hands, didn't they? High line. Yeah. Like, they gave us the opportunity to soak it up and to ping them on the counter. Ebbsfleet didn't do that. So, and it was the same when we played Dagenham, when we played Dorking, when we played Maidenhead, some of those performances that you mentioned before. Once that team sets up, we haven't got the guile and we haven't got the invention, the movement, the speed of thought, the runs matching the passes, all these things that you need to break these teams down. And so that's where these games, all these draws have come from us just not having the ability to break teams down that sit back. And if you look at Chesterfield, the top of the league, they've won 17 games. They're obviously the best team in the league. They're obviously up against this same thing week in, week out that we're up against, where teams come to Chesterfield and they sit back and they compact and all, but Chesterfield break them down week after week after week. We don't. And that's the issue, whether it's David Unsworth in charge, Steve Thompson, or now Mickey Mellon. The players on the pitch don't have what it takes to outsmart those teams, and it's just as simple as that at the minute. So that's where ultimately it comes down to the players, and then I suppose you've been saying all season, Andy, it comes back down to the recruitment. And you can keep taking it back and back and back. It doesn't really matter, does it? Because it's all about, right, we are where we are. How do we deal with it? And that's Mickey Mellon's job, isn't it?
Yeah, and we are going to have to. The reason why we're going to have to be patient is, if he wants to move Joe Nuttall on, right? That's the decision he's made. He doesn't think Joe Nuttall's got the attitude or the fight or the will to want to play for Oldham. In his interview last night, he was saying, if you want to play for this football club, you've got to be up for it, and the pressure that comes with it. With again, second largest attendance in the division yesterday. And he's got to find the right characters for that. If you want to move Joe Nuttall on, when we were after Joe Nuttall from Scunthorpe, he was demanding decent money at that time, and so it's not going to be easy to shift him. It's not going to be easy to shift some of the other players we've got on big money. So I suspect some of these contracts that run out in the summer, we may see some players go. So it's going to be another tough season, I think, and hopefully we can solve it in time for next. I know the playoffs is not out of the question. Of course, it's not. But we would have to make some signings in January, probably, when some players become available from the Football League potentially, to try and make a big difference. Because how many players at that side? I mean, Freeman looked like a bit of the weak link in the week at Barnet, but then I always sort of try and temper that with who's in front of him. So if you've got Green in front of him, Green's not going to help out a great deal. So therefore, is he got more against? Is it easier for him to attack down that side of the opposition? But some of these players that are not good enough, we're going to have to shift out. And I don't know. We're going to need at least 2 centre midfielders, probably, and some more wide players, maybe.
Oh yeah, there's lots of money to be spent and lots of deals to be done.
But we haven't got. You've got to understand that it isn't a bottomless pit.
I know, well, it means getting players out and getting players. And this is where managers earn their salt, and this is where managers that know this level and have been around this level and have got contacts and all that. This is Mellon's job now. This is what he's got to do. He's got a wheel. He's got a deal. He's got to prove his worth. I mean, I'm just thinking back to this and back to what Mellon said yesterday about playing for Oldham, and I think we've entered a new a new dynamic, something we're not used to. We've been, whenever we were successful, well, when we were successful all those years ago, when all of us were, a lot younger and fresher looking, we were underdogs, right? We played that underdog thing beautifully. You talked about the Arsenal game, Ken, Mike. He called you Ken then. We played the underdog beautifully, didn't we? Against all these, and it was good. It's like it's easier to be that underdog, to fire yourself up. We're now the big dog, not the underdog. We're the big club in the division, and we've got to I think this is where Wrexham and Notts County and all that kind of, what they did is they brought players in who could handle that, who had come from bigger clubs higher up, came in and said, yeah, like James Norwood. I'm James Norwood. I'm proven. I'll play in this. I'll score goals or whatever. They bring in the right personalities, the right characters to be the big dog in the division, and we've not got those characters in our squad who walk out there and just say, right, you're at Boundary Park now at Oldham. We're gonna put you to bed. Like we you don't stand a chance. We're gonna dominate this game from minute one. We're gonna break you down eventually, and we're gonna win the game. And it's not there. And so we've got to shift from this mentality. Going back to what we were saying before about losing games, against teams that have been on terrible runs. We spoke about it over and over on the pod, this psyche thing. And it's weird because it's not about personnel that have been here for a long time. It's new people and all that kind of stuff. But Mickey Mellon addressed it in the interview post-match yesterday. We've got to bring in the characters, the type of people who are like, right, we're at Oldham, we're the biggest club in this division, and we're going to show you how it's done. And until we've got those kind of players in there and that kind of mindset, we're going to get teams like Ebbsfleet turning up at Boundary Park in their cup final. Look how many of their fans turned up yesterday. They were buzzing for it. This was the biggest game in their history, probably. I don't think they've been in this division before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they've come up to Boundary Park in front of a big crowd, and they were well up for it. And I remember saying exactly the same thing against Maidstone, exactly the same thing against Dagenham. You've got to earn the right to win the game. You've got to shut them up. You've got to dominate the ball. You've got to win your personal battles, and then you go on and win the game. And we failed to do it again. So there's this seismic shift that we've got to figure out, of going from underdogs to being the big dogs. And when we do, then we'll start to see some kind of a change.
Yeah, I agree. But what I would say is I don't think we're a million miles off. It sounds like a perverse thing to say after what happened yesterday, but on Wednesday night, we've gone to second in the league and we've beaten 4-1 at their place. So, there is clearly talent within that squad. And we've got Norwood, who for me is by far the best striker in that league. So we've got the best player in the league at the most important position on the pitch. So it's, we're not, the defence, again, Hogan, we've got Hobson, coming back from injury, who for me is one of the best central defenders I've seen at our place for a long time. Yeah. Raglan looked all right yesterday. I think we're a little bit short at left back because Kitchen seems to be trying to do everything, a little bit like Lundstrom. And Kitchen never gets a break. It's like you always know whenever the team sheet's going to come out, Kitchen will be on it. Freeman's, but you talk about pedigree and mentality. Well, look at Freeman at right back, where he's come from. He was at Portsmouth last season. I refuse to believe that we've seen the best of him yet, the best version of him yet. So we do have the players with the experience of playing higher up. It wouldn't surprise me, and this is just based off nothing other than my own thoughts, if we started looking in the loan market to see, because if we need a backup at left back, well, then can we get somebody out of one of our local Premier League clubs, youth that are like their reserve teams, academies, etc. Why are we not seeing anyone from City? Why are we not seeing anyone from United, at Burnley? We are blessed with lots of young talent in and around us, and I think that might be quite a quick fix, something that I'd like to see more of. But I don't. Yes, yesterday was awful, but as I said, the league table doesn't paint any pictures. It's just numbers. And if you'd have offered me 6 points out of 9, I'd have taken it. So I don't. Yes, it felt like a kick in the gut yesterday, but I don't think we are a million miles off. I don't think we should be writing this season off. I still think we can get in the playoffs. You would need a hell of a lot of luck to win the playoffs, but I don't think. But look at the other teams in this league. There's some absolute dross.
Oh yeah.
You know? So I don't think it will take. Yes, to get the squad into a place where Mickey Mellon wants it is probably going to take a long time. But I think there is a way we can get into the playoffs this season. Absolutely.
I'm not writing it off. I just feel like if we get into the playoffs and you've got especially 2 away games and then away game at Wembley, the chances of going through all that unbeaten. We can't string 3 wins together anyway. We've just not done it at all. We're almost halfway through the season already. You know, you'd have to really, really, really change significant amount of the way this team performs in order to get 3, 4, 5 wins on the bounce, you know, which you might need towards the end of the season, including the playoffs. I just feel like it's possibly a stretch too far. And I'm kind of, I guess, managing my own expectations about what's realistic for it. Just a little correction for you, Matt. Ebbsfleet have spent 14 seasons at this level.
Have they?
Yeah.
Right.
They've yo-yoed up and down between Conference South and National League. So they have been in a bit, but
it's over a long period of time, though, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah. They've obviously only just come up, but they've spent a lot of time at this level, but no higher.
Right.
The loan market thing. I was going to mention that as well. So I'm glad you've done that. When we interviewed David Unsworth, I think he said it on the interview that we did with him, and we chatted to him off recording as well. He sort of talked about how difficult it was to attract Premier League academy players to the 5th division. It wasn't for a want of trying. It certainly is how he explained it to us. And then when you look at some of the players that are on loan from the academies that are like only 20 years of age, maybe they're on loan in League 2 and League 1 in some instances. And so therefore you're looking at 17, 18-year-olds potentially, and it's definitely their first loan that you're going to get, not the second loan. And, you know, they're possibly going to struggle in quite a physical league. I sort of bought the argument. And he obviously referred to speaking to other managers at this level. Like, I think Phil Parkinson had warned him against doing it because he tried it at Wrexham and was unsuccessful. So getting seasoned pros in was a better route, which is, I guess, why he's gone for players like Raglan or Norwood. To try to sort of correct that. So, I mean, yes, the loan market, but I don't know where you get loans from. Would you only really get loans from League 1 teams down to this level? You know, are they going to make a material difference if we can get their academy players on loan? I don't know.
Because we got, you know, they didn't. So we had Carragher from Wigan, who I thought was good until he got injured. We had Charlie Wellens from United, who just got sent packing. I would have thought a manager, and I don't want to put undue pressure on him, but I would have thought a manager with the relationships that Mickey Mellon will have and the pedigree that he has would be able to, you know, his lads at Burnley, by all accounts, I think he's out on loan, or
he's at Morecambe.
He's at Morecambe. He got a hat-trick the other week. So, you know, I would hope that we would be quite a decent pull to get players out of clubs higher up. I see it as, an opportunity to bring people in pretty quickly.
I think we're now in a position where where the club can sell itself. Maybe it's a bit more of a stretch to sell the league, you know, but we can sell ourselves as a professional organisation with a great playing service and, you know, good facilities and good staff and all that, the stuff that we couldn't do a couple of years ago. So the club's in a better position to start attracting better loan players now. So hopefully, you know, that will be something that we can see maybe this season, because I think, you know, I think you're right, Mike. There are, you know, in key positions within the squad, there is quality. There is good. You know, there are players with the right experience, with the right attitude, with the right talent and stuff like that. It's just bringing everybody else up to that level and throughout the squad, and that's where ultimately there are. I think this is what Mickey Mellon was saying in his interview. There are too many in the squad, and that just aren't up to that level. And so his job now is to either bring players up. And obviously, that's the first thing he's going to try and do. And he's not really had enough time yet, but and then replace them. So this season will be another frustrating season, I'm sure, but I think that it will be an improvement on last season, and last season was an improvement on the season before. It just depends how patient you are and how prepared you are to back it. And I think with the supporters as well, I think, it was a good turnout yesterday. I understand where fans are coming from when they say, "Oh, I'm not going to go until they start playing better football" and all that. I think we're in an important phase again of our redevelopment as a club. The club needs money. It needs our money. It needs us to turn up. I went into the club shop before the game and it was busy. There was a good crowd in attendance yesterday. There's a lot more sponsorship around the digital advertising and all that kind of stuff. As long as we all keep buying into it and keep backing it and keep supporting it, because the EFL money runs out next season, doesn't it? This is the last season, I think, of the EFL money. So we need to get behind it. We need to say, okay, we lost yesterday 4-1, but it's okay. Boreham Wood next week. We're all going to turn up. We're all going to put our money into the club, and because the more we do that, the easier it's going to be for us to get out of the division. If after this season, if people go, we don't go up and that, and then everyone's like, oh well, I'm just going to back away. I'll come back when we're better. That's not the way it works. If we all just drift away and stop putting our money in, it's going to get harder and harder and harder for us to get out. So I hope that we'll keep backing it with our money and with our attendance, and we'll get behind the team, because I heard rumours of things in the Rochdale Road End yesterday where people were getting on players' backs and it was getting a little bit ugly in the Rochdale Road End, and that's not it's not helping. I think we need to try and keep that perspective of where we are and where we want to be,
and maybe we treat the FA Trophy as a potential. Potential visit to Wembley, maybe earn a bit of money out of that. Had you ever heard of Mikolova before the draw was made on Monday?
I thought it was a kids' TV channel. Oh no, that's Nickelodeon. But yeah, no, I'd never heard of them. No.
I didn't even know where they were. Do you know where they're from?
Is it near Derby?
Yeah,
it's right. It's just basically a suburb of Derby, isn't it? And they perversely are actually in the Southern League Premier Division, and they're actually top of it. 39 points for 17 games.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Yeah. So 2 divisions below us.
So it's another opportunity we have these opportunities where we were able to say, it's a new law. Like getting beat 4-1 at home from Ebbsfleet was up there, wasn't it? I mean, we've had some idings with Bromley and walking away from home and stuff like that. But getting beat 4-1 at home by Ebbsfleet wasn't great. But that Mikolova, I mean, last season we got beat by Gateshead in this competition, didn't we? Who we can at least say are above us in the league now and are in our division. But getting beat by Mikolova would definitely be a new low footballing wise.
Didn't Peterborough Sports that sounded like a shock take us to a penalty shootout?
Yeah. That was verging on a new law, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But we managed to overcome it. But yeah, exactly. But again, it's like, turning up to that game at Boundary Park, there'll probably only be 2 stands open. It's going to be a cold afternoon before Christmas. But yeah, again, it's an opportunity to put a bit of money in the coffers, isn't it? And it does help the club, but yeah, I can see the lack of appeal for a fixture like that as well.
Yeah. Have you when you've been on before, Mike? Have you done Latics Mine? Were we doing it when you?
Yeah, I did it once, and I was dreadful because there were loads of questions about the last 10 years instead of questions about the 80s and 90s.
I'm just having a glance down now at the questions that have come out of the Paul Prendergast computer, and you might be in luck.
Oh, really?
There's a few old questions in here.
No pressure.
Okay. Should we find out then? Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
How many FA Cup replays were Latics involved in 1990?
3.
Incorrect. It was 4.
It's 4, Birmingham. Bollocks.
Which American goalkeeper played just one game for Latics in a League Cup win against Darlington in 1988?
Winston DeBose.
Oh, very good. Who knocked Latics out of the FA Cup in 2015-16?
Doncaster.
Sheffield United. Who was Latics' first choice goalkeeper at the start of the 88-89 season?
Rhodes.
Correct. Who missed a spot kick for Latics at Sheffield Wednesday in October 1992?
Graham Sharp.
Wrong, it was Nick Henry. Who scored a brace against Sheffield United at home in 2014-15?
Pass.
In 89-90, Andy Ritchie scored in every round of the Littlewoods Cup bar the final. How many did he score in the competition in total?
7.
10. What colour was Latics away kit in 2008-2009?
Black.
Luminous yellow. How many league games was Latics' winless run at the start of the 96-97 season when we went down out of what is now the Championship?
6.
10.
Christ.
Who was David Unsworth's last win against?
Aldershot.
Correct. Who knocked Latics? I've started, so I'll finish. Who knocked Latics out of the FA Cup in 2012-13?
I'll say Doncaster again.
It was Everton.
Oh, yeah.
So you scored. You did all right there. You got 1, 2, 3. That's all right. You had one pass.
Let's be honest.
Well, you'd be middle of the pack with 3. You had one pass. Who scored a brace against Sheffield United at home in 2014-15? Matt, you got any idea?
Nah.
I'll give you both a clue. He scored at Boundary Park yesterday.
Oh,
Bolian.
Correct.
No way.
Yeah. Good effort.
Yeah.
So that's just made a miserable weekend even worse. I forgot Birmingham in the FA Cup. I was just thinking.
I thought when I saw the question originally, and I asked myself the answer, I said 3 but I immediately just went with the teams. So I was like Birmingham, Everton, and United. But there's 2 replays against Everton, so you didn't forget that.
United, yeah. Hey ho.
Yeah, imagine getting to the 3rd round of the FA Cup. These days, that would be nice in itself, wouldn't it? But never mind replays in the semi-final.
Well, we're in the 3rd round of the FA Trophy in 2 weeks, mate. So
that's only because we don't. That's only because we didn't have to qualify for rounds 1 and 2, Andy. To be fair.
There is a little bit of news that I can share on the recruitment front. So there is an interim head of recruitment now, and there is a meeting apparently this week between that interim head and all the scouts I presume to outline what the areas of need are and what we're looking for. So
that's interesting. On the interview in the week that Mickey Mellon did to BBC, Mickey Mellon named him.
Did he? Oh, there you go.
Terry McPhillips is the name he gave. I had a quick look up. He seemed to be in work at the minute at Forest Green. So if you said interim, I assume that means that he's doing it on a part-time basis. I assume, is he? Or
I've no idea.
No idea. Yeah. Okay. But I guess that's a good sign, because the other thing that Mickey Mellon said in an interview a few weeks ago is that he'd been operating for the first 2 weeks without a head of recruitment. Obviously, we knew that because Steve Thompson left, and also without an analyst. He was doing it quite blind then, wasn't he? For the first few weeks. Literally no help.
Blind Melon. That was a band, wasn't it? Anyway, sorry.
Was it?
Yeah, there's a band called Blind Melon, and I just joined the dots. That's all. Yeah. I'm just here to join the dots, Andy.
Yeah, that's your job. Yeah.
Well, when you were saying that before about a new low every week, Blur did a really good song called "This Is a Low" back in the day. It was on the Part Life album. It's really depressing. We could start coming out to that maybe every week.
Yeah, yeah.
So does that mean Terry McPhillips? He's meeting. So I think we've got about, when we asked David Unsworth how many scouts we've got, I think he said up to 10, but 6 regulars or something like that, 5 or 6 regulars. So Terry McPhillips is meeting those scouts to talk about targets to try and aim for. I guess that's what.
Yeah, I mean, all I picked up was that there's a big meeting planned with them all this week. So that's I presume that's to say, right, this is what we're looking for. These are the types of attributes that we need. Crack on.
Right, and that'll have come from Mellon's had enough time now, especially after yesterday, to have worked out what he thinks he needs, probably. So that's that brief. So I guess we hope, therefore, in the next few weeks to see things change. Hopefully.
What I like about Mellon and his approach, and he's very honest. And I don't just mean that like in terms of the interviews and stuff like that, you know. He will look. If you're asking him, I haven't spoken to him personally yet, but if you ask people that are asking him a question, you know, he'll look you in the eye, he'll answer the question, and he seems sincere. He doesn't want to bullshit anybody or anything like that. But also, it seems that he's very direct like that and honest with the players as well. You know, he's had that conversation with Joe Nuttall. He must be sitting down with him like that. It's about, you know. There's no grey area, it doesn't seem, with him when it comes to these things. He tells them what he feels, what he thinks they need to hear, and that's all you can ask for. When we were going through that whole Abdallah, phase, that was the last thing that they would do. There was not that accountability. There wasn't that honesty. There wasn't that, look, this is what needs fixing. Look at it, address it, deal with it. Be mature enough to deal with the difficult things that need dealing with. And a lot of these things are very difficult, I would imagine, in football. Like, managing people, telling people, look, in no uncertain terms, one way or the other, you're not good enough. You're not, whatever you're doing is not enough. It can't be easy. It must be, it's a difficult thing to do, and to do it in with class, and to do it in the right way. And Mellon seems to be the kind of person that has got broad enough shoulders to be able to do that and to move things forward. So I think we just have to, I hate that the whole term of trust the process and all that kind of stuff, but we do have to put faith in him. We have to just say, right, he seems to. You look at his eyes, look behind his eyes, look at his body language, look at the way he speaks in a lot of the interviews where he's come off the back of performances like Filed and like yesterday. He's not hiding, and you can see the disappointment, you can see the frustration, and that's mirrored in us. And I think as Latics fans, we've always liked that. We liked Sheridan when he reflected our dismay and disgust at some of the performances. So I think that we can buy into him as a manager, as a person, and I think that's a good start, because a lot more than a few of us, a lot of the fans, they never took to Unsworth in that same way, for the opposite reasons that we've described. So I think there's a good foundation here now, and hopefully we'll start to see something kick on in the new. We spoke last week on the podcast about Christmas, the dreaded Christmas period with Latics. Do you think, Mike, that there's any way that apart from the obvious joy that we'll be spreading on the 22nd of December at the Cotton Rooms when we have our Christmas party? I mean, that's going to be absolutely, that's going to be wonderful. But do you think that are you optimistic about a points haul over Christmas? Can we do it for a change?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly, I know I don't want to sound like a broken record. I know we're well overdue. We're more overdue success as fans of this football club than any other set of fans in the country. You hear Newcastle fans banging on about how great they are, and Everton. In fact, Crimea River, come back when you've not had a promotion since 1991. So we are more overdue than anyone else for any kind of success. But I just think every now and then, if you take a step back and look at where we were in the last days of Abella and Mo's circus. And if you look at, yesterday, we've got 6,500 in, the vast majority of whom are home fans. In the Joe Royal stand, the hospitality is sold out. There's people paying decent money in there for food. The atmosphere is better for me than it's been since even we look back with blue tinted glasses at the glory days. There's still some shit atmospheres back then. There was a period, certainly in that second season, where there might have been 12, 13,000 in who were just turning up expecting us to steamroll whoever we were playing against. The atmosphere wasn't as good as it was even yesterday. So the fan bases, the levels of support, the fan base has improved. The state, we've got a new pitch down. The floodlights are brand new. There are, with proper people in charge of us. We've got a proper manager now who's got multiple promotions to his name, who clearly knows what he's doing, and he's a good bloke as well. We've got the best, as I said before, we've got the best player in the league at the most important position. Like, yes, yesterday was awful, but there are lots of reasons to be optimistic about where we are as a football club. And yeah, I'll shut up now.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, you heard it here first. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Thanks for joining us on the podcast, Mike. Cheers, Andy. Merry Christmas, everyone. On Friday, the 22nd of December, join us for the Boundary Park Alert System Christmas Do at the Cotton Rooms on Rock Street in Oldham. Yes, it's £20, but for that you'll get to enjoy a delicious pie and beef paste supper, live music, special guests, and the kind of entertainment that you will not find anywhere else. We'll be taking Mad Friday to a whole new level. So visit ofcpodcast.co.uk/shop to get your tickets before they sell out. See you there. Thank you for listening to the Boundary Park Alert System, a QPod production hosted and produced weekly by Matt Dean, Andy Halliwell and Dave Bradley. QPod is Oldham's only dedicated podcast production company, and if you'd like to learn more about how podcasting can help take your brand to the next level, visit kupod.co.uk. A huge thank you goes to all those people who subscribe to the podcast on Spotify. We really appreciate you all. Please visit ofcpodcast.co.uk and click Be a Supporter or find the link in the show notes if you'd like to help us fund the show. It's only $2.99 per month to subscribe, but if you'd rather make a one-off donation, please visit buymeacoffee.com/OAFC podcast or click the link on our website. Don't miss the Latics Football Phone-In every Wednesday live from 8:30pm. Please visit youtube.com/@OAFC podcast and do hit subscribe while you are there. You can also follow and interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok @OAFC podcast. Big thanks go to Eileen Finnegan for writing our excellent weekly blog, which we encourage you to read on our website every Saturday morning, and also to Paul Prendergast for providing us with all the Latics Mind questions. The title music for the show is by Manchester DJ and producer Starion, and for more information visit bandcamp.com/Red Laser Records. If you'd like to be a guest or contribute to the show, we would love to hear from you. Until then, see you next time.